Jalen Hurts is overrated.
Man, that's false. I personally think he's the best quarterback in the NFC right now. And what that means to me is like I don't think he's the best thrower of the football. If that's not what I mean by quarterback. I mean you replace him with any other quarterback in the league, the Eagles probably get worse.
Oh yeah.
And if you replace any, sorry, not in the league, in the NFC, they probably get worse. And vice versa, if you replace him, I mean, if we go through the list, you replace him with 49ers,
Brock
Brock
Purdy.
Purdy, that's better. If you replace him with Kirk Cousins, the Vikings get better. I think the Eagles get slightly worse. I don't think it's a huge decrease by any means, but
No,
slightly
yeah, for
worse.
sure, yeah.
You know, Dak is obviously better than Dak in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he's just more poised than Dak. I think
Oh
that's really
yeah.
what it comes down to between those
Definitely.
two.
Yeah.
Just ultimately, like I don't think he competes with the AFC guys. I don't think he's better than Joe Burrow or definitely Patrick Mahomes or even Josh Allen, but even Lamar Jackson. Like I don't think he's more in the Lamar Jackson tier than he is in the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow tier. So to me, he's like properly rated. I don't think anyone is saying that he's that good. And if they are, I think yes, he might be slightly overrated. But ultimately, I think he's properly rated. I think it's false that he's overrated.
Because for me, like when I look at quarterbacks, I always like to rate them based on their poise,
Hmm.
their killer instincts
Okay,
in big moments,
that's huge to me too.
and that's why like I we did a rankings last week with my guy Tyler, and I had Jalen Hurts at number three, NFL top five quarterback number three over
Josh,
Josh Allen.
fucking hell,
The reason I had it, I didn't have it off anything more than
poise.
poise,
Yeah,
killer instinct, getting to a Super Bowl, being successful in college, everything that
yeah.
every level he's at, he's winning. Where Josh Allen, he's had his moments for sure, gotten to the playoffs, but he's never able to get over that, the AFC Championship.
Man, I think
He's has
that's
his moments,
that's a
but
little that's a little petty. A little
it's not a
petty.
little petty.
Jalen Hurts has no one near as good as Patrick Mahomes that he has to go through, and I think it's easy to say that if Patrick Mahomes is not in the AFC,
But
Josh
okay,
Allen
why
is
didn't Josh
making
Allen? Why couldn't Josh Allen beat the?
Joe Burrow
Yeah,
last year. That's fair. I'm gonna
and
leave
it's
it.
not like these
I'm gonna leave.
quarterbacks are facing each other. But why
Yeah,
can't he
right,
get over that hurdle? Like, why
right.
can't he learn from
Yeah.
a mistake?
I personally
Obviously,
think that the Bills' offense was a little bit actually, a lot of bit Josh Allen heavy,
okay,
and
yeah,
you
I
just
agree.
can't do that.
I
And that's
agree.
not what we're asking. The Eagles aren't asking Jalen Hurts to do that.
But Jalen Hurts, he plays within his own style and he is successful at it. He's not that
Hmm.
type of guy to wow you or
Hmm.
do anything crazy. He can run the ball when he needs to. He can pass the ball when he needs to.
But I don't want
Makes
to
the right
confuse.
decisions.
I don't want to confuse best quarterback for best roster, right?
It's not about the roster. That's the main thing I think that people hang their heads on is like that the surrounding cast is really propelling Jalen Hurts to new levels.
Yeah, I'm not
I
saying he's propelling him.
okay,
I'm just
okay.
saying comparative to Josh Allen's roster. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I think
Yeah,
the Bills have a pretty comparable roster to the
they do.
Eagles. So
I'm saying offense. I should just narrow down
offensively, I
offense.
think the same thing.
No,
No,
Josh Allen was the leading rusher.
but Josh Allen. Okay, running game is non-existent. But
Non-existent.
how about Philly's running
That's a
game?
big L though.
How about Philly's running game
Come
though?
on now, they had Miles
But
Sanders,
they don't really utilize him though.
Gainwell. They have just a good
Gainwell,
running attack though. It's undeniable they were number one rushing unit I think in the league last year. Was Am I right about that? Or
I
were
don't know.
they number
I
one
don't. I
last year?
can't deny nor confirm, but I just
Yeah.
think their running back. They don't value. They never valued Miles Sanders
No, but it's
deservingly. I mean, undeservingly, in my
right.
opinion. But
I think it's more so just like the scheme that they have toward the emphasis they have towards running
yeah.
is really helping Jalen Hurts. Where
Okay.
alternatively, alternatively, the Bills do not value the rush enough where they're putting James Cook and Singletary like and they're not even like it's not even about the guys that they have, it's the lack of emphasis in the running game. That's what's really I think maddening me is like when we go Josh Allen compared to Jalen Hurts is like can this man get a running game that's not his legs? Like that's not fair for a quarterback. No matter how you slice it, it's not fair for just because the quarterback is a dual rusher. Like okay, bet we're not going to give you any running backs. Like that's crazy to me. And I think Lamar Jackson also dealt with that past couple of years himself.
So you think
So
that lack of running game is
is
hurting their chances
I
of.
think is essential.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think is essential piece of why the Bills did not make it over Joe Burrow and the Bills last year. I mean,
the
the Bengals
Bengals. Yeah.
is the lack of a running. And I was harping on this last year as well. If you bring back some of those conversations we had, like the lack of a running game was early and often. I was speaking about it, and ultimately, like it makes you one dimensional. Like it really does. So
So why do
yeah.
you think they've gone towards that type of style?
Because Josh Allen is him. That's why.
Okay.
And when you're him like that, the organizations who that don't know how to properly build around hims end up just making it so that he's the only fiddle, and that really makes me mad. Like
So like that James Harden type of treatment in
e-
Houston.
ex- exactly. Give him Chris Paul with the bum knee. Go crazy. Give him oh my god. Just in general, I think this is an issue that I've seen around the league where when they see an up and coming quarterback, instead of building around him proper, I think this is something that we can talk about the Eagles organization doing really well is they see they had a guy, they didn't put everything around him. They put everything around him. They traded picks to get AJ Brown or yeah, AJ Brown. They drafted a high wide receiver in Devonta Smith. Like all of these things gave him a good running game, great O line. Like this, like you can't if you have a talent, you have to build around him. It's not just about like and the NBA does this a lot of times too. We've seen LeBron James come in 7, 8 years. They failed to build anything around him. KG, the Timberwolves failed to build anything around
But
him.
what about the Bills? They've invested in the
Yeah,
receivers. They got Stephon Diggs.
you know,
Through the draft, they've been able to find a couple guys that.
there's this curse in geopolitics. I'm a history buff as well, so I look into this stuff. And one thing that happens with countries is they get lucky with mineral wealth, where like they'll run into oil or gold or something like that. And because one country has this resource that is just so plentiful and super valued, they they fail to build out the rest of their economy and their
Okay.
society, and they end up being a Saudi Arabia, just rich off one thing. And once that one thing goes down, what happens to the regime? It ends up toppling because it's just built on one resource that they got lucky to get.
Hmm.
When you get lucky like that, you have to be like a Kuwait and start building around it. You have to be like a. I doubt our audience knows what I'm talking about, but just like in general,
I mean,
this
we
is a
can get
big
what you're
flaw.
saying. I mean, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they've made efforts to improve
Hmm.
the offensive side of the ball surrounding cast for sure.
Hmm.
I mean, when you think of Stephon Diggs, they got him when before the AFC Championship even run happened.
Hmm.
You look at Gabe Davis, who took off that year. You look at Dawson Knox, and then you look at Dalton Kincaid they draft this year.
I love him. Yeah.
You look at some guys that they've done. I mean, yes, they don't always go for like the big names, but they definitely have been putting their testing the waters, I guess, with getting some big name players. You look at
Sure.
Christian McCaffrey in the market; they were interested. Look at Dalvin Cook; they were
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah.
There's guys they're interested in. They last year they bring in a running back as well, Zach
They're
Moss.
interested in JT. To
They're
keep it
interested in
fair.
JT as well.
Yeah.
So it's just like they are definitely trying, but
Yeah.
they're not gonna try to tear anything up in terms of their future. Like they're not about to trade
Sure.
picks. They're not about to go the
Sure.
Rams route
Yeah.
and do all
I
that.
don't think you should because
Yeah,
Josh Allen is longevity, of
yeah,
course.
yeah.
Right.
So I think okay. Let me answer the question. We agree though. It's
Hmm.
it's false. I don't think he's overrated.
Okay.
We rate him differently, which is fine, but I think
Well, it's not by that much.
it's
It's
not by that
literally
much.
saying like
I just said the difference
totally.
between them. I think is just
Yeah.
Hertz is a key decision maker. He makes
Hurts.
big time plays. And I'm not comparing
Yeah.
him at all.
Hurts
Not
or Herbert.
Hurts.
Okay. Hurts or
Hurts.
Lamar.
Hurts.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you look at those two, I mean, show me how many playoff wins they have combined with
Juan.
Lamar and Herbert. Like I want to
For
like
sure.
show me, and
Yeah.
it's just like, and I'm not going to put that whole choke of a playoff game last year with Herbert and the
Yeah.
Chargers.
Hmm.
Not putting that all on Herbert. Just like I'm not putting the lack of playoff success for Lamar on
Yeah.
Lamar. But
Sure.
when you're the quarterback, we all know what comes with that.
Yeah.
And Hertz has been able to deliver, whereas other guys, I mean, if they haven't been able to deliver, just with my thing, like I said, is based off of how poised you are, and that's what I'm going to rank you based on. And these guys are poised. Burrow, poised since college. Mahomes, poised since he got to the league. Hurts, poised since college. Allen gets you to that point and is a super talented player,
Hmm.
but doesn't always deliver.
Mm.
And when I say you, I mean just the responsibility you put on
as a
quarterbacks,
quarterback.
to be
Sure.
that guy.
I think that's valid. I think that's completely
Okay.
valid.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I do agree with you. I think the poise is what really even puts him in that conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I 100% agree. Ultimately, your job as a quarterback is to ultimately at the end of the game
Mhm.
complete that drive. He's done that multiple times.
Yeah, multiple times. Winning
High
drives,
stake moments,
for sure. Winning.
you
Yeah.
know, and then ultimately be able to be a guy that people are willing to lay down their bodies for.
Yeah, yeah. And like that was my thing when I was thinking of this question is like you could also say is Jalen Hurts underrated or could you say is he fairly rated? So it's
Would you
like
say he's underrated?
no, but there's a conversation to be had with some people
Mm,
that would say no, he's rated just fine. He's not underrated at all
yeah,
because he has a perfect team built around him.
right.
People will say that. So it's
I
just
would say that.
and it's just like
Yeah.
when you say things like that to me, it just indicates that
Yeah.
like you don't really believe this dude is like one
Mm.
of them. And
I
I
mean,
I think Hurts
mhm.
from okay, like look at Hurts in college. I mean, yeah, he played at Alabama. Yeah, he played at Oklahoma. Like let's look at Oklahoma. Like he did his thing there, and he
Yeah,
was definitely a marquee player on that team.
for sure.
And when you look at Alabama, like Tua goes out, and he definitely is the reason
He
why they
balls. Yeah.
win that game against Georgia. So I think we just got to give more respect to Jalen Hurts and just understand, like, yes, today's era of quarterbacks it's about the wow factor, and Hurts doesn't always bring you that, but he brings poise and he brings winning, and it's
Mm-hmm.
the reason why he was in MVP conversation last year. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about his team entirely, and it's not just because he's the quarterback of a good team. It's because he's one of them guys that elevates that team. If
Yeah.
they don't have him, when they have um, like Gardner Minshew, right? When Gardner Minshew was playing those couple games, what did he do? He had he had won that one good game. He had that good game against Dallas, I think.
Yeah.
But outside of that, people saw that next game like,
And that was
okay,
his
he's
first game.
yeah, they
Hmm.
saw the reality of things. Like we
Yeah.
do need Jalen, and
I,
I think that was the perfect showing of that.
yeah. Ultimately, I think you're on the money. I think people don't value poise enough,
Hmm.
and I really do think the difference between Kirk Cousins and Tom Brady is poise, which is crazy,
Hmm.
crazy to say, but I really do believe like Kirk Cousins, you see him in the pocket, he moves decently. He can evade pressure and sit in the pocket with the best of them. He can make every single throw in the book with the best of them. But ultimately, what it comes down to is when it gets tense, he gets a little shaky.
Hmm.
He doesn't have that poise. And if
Yeah,
he does, Bill Belichick would have found his next Tom Brady. Indeed, like I genuinely believe that. And like I think to your point, people might be undervaluing poise in the grand scheme of it. Because
yeah,
maybe what I'm doing here with Josh Allen, he has all the tools,
everything you want. Yeah.
but right there and then, he loses to the guy that has poise, which is
Hmm.
Joe Burrow, which is Patrick
He
Mahomes.
could throw a pick. He might
Right.
do too much and try to run with his legs,
I think
fumble.
I
Like,
can respect your point of view here, and I
mhm.
think you've convinced me a little bit more on that. He might be a little more underrated,
Yeah,
especially to me, because I think I did give the argument about his roster and he was just being at the helm, and I understand it. I might be undervaluing him a little bit because his poise is just something you is really just when you look at it as a market, supply and demand type of situation. The supply for quarterbacks who are very talented is actually higher than the supply of quarterbacks who are poised in the most needed moments. So by that
yeah.
analysis, you're on the money, man.
That's just my thing on it. And I've definitely been on the other side of the argument where I didn't think Hertz was that type of player.
Hmm.
Where I got him at now, but eventually, like I just thought about it a little bit more. Put my biases aside. With all our history with the Eagles,
For
and
sure.
just thought about it. I'm like, okay, Hertz is actually like
Yeah,
with his accolades and what he's done, like let's put some respect on his name. And I think
for
you put
sure.
him in this conversation before Allen because he's accomplished more, and that's simple and plain. And when talk about Burrow, okay, I'm like, all right, Burrow's been to the Super Bowl as well, and he has the success to back it up. So I think Burrow, that's what makes it for him.
Yeah.
And Allen, I mean, when
Right.
Allen gets there, and then it's just a conversation of Allen Hurts' quarterback ability,
Yeah.
and that's when you can make it a more deeper conversation for me, anyways. But right now, I just think Hurts has the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's fair. Just a little Vikings tidbit, just to throw that in here. I don't know if you heard, but Rick Spielman, our former